Before there was sound, there was a voice. Before there was time, there was the word. Not a syllable, not an echo, but a being conscious, radiant, alive. He spoke, and galaxies took form. He whispered, and angels were born. And tonight, that same word still speaks. But can you still hear him through the static of your world? You've read this verse 1,000 times. In the beginning was the Word. But have you ever stopped to realize that this verse is describing the very moment eternity broke silence? Stay, don't scroll past this mystery, because John chapter 1 isn't just a poetic prologue. It's the announcement that God has entered human history. The light has come, and it still shines in the dark. Now, open your Bible, step beyond the noise. Let's go back to the moment before everything began, before the first dawn, before atoms learned how to orbit, before light even had a name. There was a presence, not silence, not chaos, not emptiness presence. And that presence was the Word. Every beginning, every sunrise, every breath, every heartbeat is only a faint echo of that one beginning, because the universe didn't start with an explosion of matter. It began with an utterance. A voice broke through the void, and when he spoke, existence obeyed. Reality itself bent under the authority of sound, not noise, but meaning. That's what logos means. It's not just word as in syllables. It's reason, structure, purpose, divine intelligence wrapped in sound. You see, creation is not an accident. It's an expression, the speech of God, written across time and space. When John writes, "In the beginning was the Word," he's not starting a theology textbook. He's detonating a revelation, because John isn't talking about a start. He's talking about before the start. The Word didn't begin at the beginning. The Word was already there, existing before beginnings existed. Outside of clocks, beyond the reach of calendars, older than time, yet more relevant than breath. This is where philosophy drowns and revelation begins. No human mind could have imagined such a being, one who is both eternal and intimate, cosmic, yet close enough to whisper. The Greeks had long speculated about logos, a rational principle that ordered the cosmos. But John goes further. He says that logos is not an idea, it's a person. The Word is not a force. He is alive. Every sound you've ever heard, every bird call, every storm, every cry is a shadow of that original voice. It was that word that flung the galaxies outward, that separated sea from shore, that breathed stars into their orbits. So when you read, "In the beginning was the Word," you're standing at the threshold of every miracle ever made. Think about it. If the world began with the Word, then your life can begin again with one too. That's why words matter so much, because creation still responds to them. You are made in the image of the speaking God, so your words carry creative potential. That's why despair speaks death, and faith speaks resurrection, because the echo of the logos still vibrates through your vocal cords. But John isn't just inviting us to admire divine poetry. He's showing us that everything starts with relationship. Before the cosmos, before sin, before redemption, there was communication. God was not alone. There was fellowship, movement, expression, love, a holy conversation within the Trinity before time even ticked. In the beginning was the Word, the sentence that dismantles loneliness. You were never meant to exist in silence. You were born out of dialogue, the overflow of divine communion that said, "Let us make man in our image." That's why the human soul breaks under isolation, because it was designed to echo the voice that made it. If you've ever felt forgotten, or unheard, or invisible, remember, the first thing God ever did was speak, not build, not destroy, not hide. He spoke. That's his nature, communication, revelation. The Word is not just what God says, it's who God is. In the moment he speaks, darkness loses its definition, because the only thing that gives darkness power is silence. But when the word comes, silence dies, and life begins. Imagine it, nothing but the void. Then a voice, not loud, but sovereign. Not many words, just one decree. Let there be. And there was. Instantly, eternities unfolded. Matter aligned. Time was born. Creation became the visible sermon of an invisible God. And this is where John's brilliance shines. He links that Genesis moment to Jesus Christ. He's saying, that same word that created the universe. He's the one who walked among us. The carpenter of Nazareth was the same architect of the galaxies. The eternal's voice that spoke light into being now spoke mercy to a blind man and resurrection to a tomb. Same word, same power, same heartbeat, wrapped in flesh. That's the scandal of the gospel, that the author of reality would step inside his own story. But before we reach that point, John makes us feel the weight of eternity. He wants us to grasp that Jesus isn't a new chapter. He's the language the whole book was written in. So when we say the word, we're not just talking about speech. We're talking about presence, the active, personal, living essence of God. A word that breathes, a word that creates, a word that loves. Every molecule in your body carries his signature, because everything that exists owes its existence to that first sentence. If he had not spoken, nothing would stand. And if he stopped speaking now, everything would collapse back into dust. This is why prayer matters. It's not a ritual, it's resonance. You're aligning your small voice with the eternal voice that never stopped speaking. When you speak in faith, you harmonize with creation's first song. In the beginning was the Word. It's not history, it's a heartbeat. It's the origin of sound, of soul, of story. And even now, this very moment, the Word is still speaking. Maybe you can't hear him because of the noise. Maybe you've mistaken silence for absence. But silence is never empty when the Word lives in it. If you listen closely enough, you'll realize that every heartbeat is a whisper of that first command, let there be. And so, here's the truth John is trying to awaken in you. If your life feels like chaos, it doesn't need control, it needs a word. If your spirit feels void, it doesn't need escape, it needs his voice. The same word that birthed creation can birth courage, hope, and purpose in you, because beginnings don't happen once. They happen every time the Word speaks. In the beginning was the Word, and if he was there then, he is here now. And the Word was with God before the mountains were formed, before angels learned to sing, before gravity bowed to order. There was companionship, not solitude, not silence, but relationship, and the Word was with God. That single phrase dismantles every lie that eternity is lonely. It reveals a mystery. Before creation, there was conversation. Before existence, there was communion. In the eternal stillness, there was movement, a rhythm of love, a dialogue between Father and Son, Spirit and Word. The universe wasn't born out of emptiness, it was born out of overflow. Creation is what happens when divine love decides to share itself. You were not made because God was bored. You were made because God was together. Let that sink in. Before God ever said, "Let there be light," there was already light. The radiance of relationship. A father loving his son. A son reflecting his father. A spirit breathing between them in eternal harmony. It's what with means. The Greek word pros, tong, tion, toward God. It paints a picture of the Word face to face with God, turned toward him, engaged, alive, like a conversation without beginning or end. Not a servant before a king, but a son before a father. Not distant, but intimate. So when John writes, "And the Word was with God," he's not describing geography. He's describing proximity of essence, a closeness so deep that nothing has ever existed like it. Eternity is not an empty throne room. It's a dance of glory. It's Father, Son, and Spirit. 3 notes in one eternal chord. Not confusion, not competition, harmony. And that's where love comes from. Love isn't something God does. It's who He is. It has always existed because He has never been alone. This is the root of everything beautiful. Because what flows from unity becomes creation. And what flows from creation becomes redemption. If you think about it, all brokenness in the world is simply disunity. Relationships that forgot how to be with. But the Word never forgot. He was and is forever with God. And that's why He could later be with us. Because you can't truly be with people until you've been with God. The secret of Jesus' power wasn't His miracles, it was His presence. He carried the stillness of eternity into every storm He walked into. Every healing, every teaching, every act of mercy was simply the echo of that original companionship. He never acted alone. He said it plainly. The Son can do nothing by Himself. He only does what He sees the Father doing. That's divine alignment, not control, but communion. Not performance, but participation. And here's the revelation. You were made to live the same way. The enemy's first strategy was not to destroy creation. It was to separate it, to whisper, you can be like God, without God. And the moment we believed that lie, we fell out of width. We fell from communion into confusion, from relationship into religion, from presence into performance. But Jesus came to restore the width, to bring us back into the same face-to-face reality He shared with the Father. That's why one of His names is Emmanuel, God with us. He didn't come just to forgive your sins. He came to reintroduce you to the voice you were made to know. Pause here, breathe, let that sink into your bones. The one who was face to face with God from eternity. Past now longs to be face to face with you. He wants to bring you into that ancient conversation. The one that's been happening before time began. Every prayer you whisper, every tear that falls in faith is added to that eternal dialogue. You are not a spectator of divine relationship. You are invited into it. When you pray, heaven doesn't receive a message. It receives a reunion. And the Word was with God. It means you were never meant to live apart. Your life is not about achievement. It's about alignment. It's not about doing more, but drawing nearer. Because when the Word is with God, creation flourishes. And when you are with the Word, you flourish too. This is the secret of every revival, every awakening, every miracle. People stopped working for God and started walking with Him. Eden wasn't a temple, it was a walk. It's Adam and God, side by side in the cool of the day, the prototype of width. That was heaven on earth until we walked away. But now, through the Word made flesh, the walk is reopened. The garden is calling again. You see, John 1-2 doesn't just describe eternity. It describes destiny. Your destiny is to be with God again, not just in eternity, but now, in every ordinary moment. When you sit in silence, when you choose forgiveness, when you lift your voice in faith, you are stepping back into the rhythm of the universe with. That's what the gospel restores. Not only salvation, but synchronization. It's a word. And the Father, moving as one, and through the Spirit, drawing you into that motion. It's what Jesus prayed in John 17. Father, I want them to be with me where I am. Do you feel the echo? The same with from the beginning. It's the same intimacy, the same fire, the same unity. And the Word was with God. It's not just information, it's invitation to turn toward God again, to face Him, not your fears, to listen again to the heartbeat that never stopped. Because before creation began, there was love facing love. And that's the true foundation of the universe. Not chaos, not chance, not coincidence, communion. That's where you come from. That's what you were made for. That's what eternity will restore. So the question isn't, where is God? The real question is, Are you still facing him? 'Cause he's still there, still with, still waiting, still love. It's only 5 words, 5 syllables that split history in half, and the word was God. Everything before it was mystery. Everything after it is revelation. John doesn't warm you up for this. He doesn't build an argument or set the stage. He simply opens eternity and lets the glory pour out. And the Word was God, not a messenger of God, not a reflection of God, not a servant or symbol or echo. God Himself. That's the line that turns poetry into power. The Word that spoke is the one who is. When He said, "Let there be light," okay, wasn't summoning something outside of Himself. He was revealing what was already inside Him, because everything that exists within God. Creation didn't begin in a factory. It began in fellowship. Reality is the outbreathing of divine life, and the air that fills your lungs is still carrying the vibration of that first breath. This statement, "The Word was God," is John's lightning strike into eternity. It tells us that the carpenter's hands that built tables in Nazareth were the same hands that carved the rings of Saturn, that the eyes that wept at Lazarus' tomb were the same eyes that saw galaxies being born, that the voice that said, "Follow me," was the same voice that said, "Let there be." And that's why this verse is the dividing line of all theology. Because if the Word is God, then every word He ever spoke carries the full authority of heaven. Every promise is eternal. Every command is creative. Every come forth still echoes across time and space. You see, the incarnation didn't reduce God, it revealed Him. When the infinite stepped into the finite, He didn't lose His power, He showed His nature, because true power isn't distance, it's nearness. The proof of divinity isn't that He stayed above creation, okay, but that He dared to step inside it. Every religion in history points man upward. John 1 points God downward, down into dust, into humanity, into heartbeats and hunger and heartbreak. This is not mythology. This is majesty disguised as mercy. Let the words hit you again. The Word was God. The one who spoke light is light. The one who defines truth is truth. The one who gives life is life. Not metaphor, not metaphorical, literal, living, burning reality. So when Jesus says later, "Before Abraham was, I am," He isn't claiming seniority, He's claiming sovereignty. He's identifying Himself with the eternal I am of Exodus 3. The voice from the burning bush that told Moses, "I am that I am." And now, John tells you that voice has taken on a name, a body, a heartbeat, and a face. This is where worship stops being theory. This is where eternity puts on skin. If the Word was God, then there is no such thing as ordinary in His presence. Every moment becomes sacred ground. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every sunrise whispers, "He is here," because this verse destroys separation. It tells us that the distance between God and man is not a canyon to climb. It's already been crossed. He is not a concept. He is not a legend. He is being Himself, the ground of all existence, the pulse beneath every heartbeat, the intelligence behind every atom. When John says the Word was God, it's giving language to the uncontainable, the uncreated one, the Ancient of Days, clothed not in temples or rituals, but in revelation. You can't measure Him by logic. You can't confine Him to creeds. He is infinite consciousness, pure love, raw holiness. He doesn't just dwell in eternity. Eternity dwells in Him. And yet, that same infinite being became touchable. He let human hands hold Him. He let time define Him just so it could redefine time itself. This is what makes the gospel scandalous. God didn't send a representative. He came Himself. No prophet could reach that high. No priest could bridge that wide. So the Word became the bridge. God to God, heaven to earth. creator to creature. This truth shakes every kingdom built on pride, every philosophy that crowns intellect as God, every system that says man can climb to heaven, because heaven already climbed down, and the Word was God. You don't need to invent divinity, you just need to recognize it. He is not a theory to master, but a presence to encounter. That's why John doesn't start his gospel with genealogy, but with glory. He doesn't trace Jesus' bloodline to David, he traces it to eternity. And right there, those few words, John pierces through every religious veil. Jesus is not one among many. He is the one. He is the voice behind the prophets, the fire in the burning bush, the whisper Elijah heard on the mountain, the cloud that filled Solomon's temple. Every glimpse of God in the Old Testament was a preview of the Word that would one day walk among us. And that's the staggering truth. God is not beyond reach. He has already reached for you through the Word to say the Word was. God is to realize you've never taken a breath outside His presence. You live in the speech of God. The universe is the sound of His name still ringing. Every molecule hums His melody. Every heartbeat keeps His rhythm. Every tear that falls in faith lands in the palm of the one who made the stars. That's why John writes this way, not as a scholar, but as a witness. He's saying, we saw Him, we touched Him, and when we did, we realized we were touching God. And that realization changes everything. Because if Jesus is the Word, and the Word is God, then when He speaks, He doesn't just describe reality. He creates it. One word from His mouth can rewrite your entire life. The same way, let there be light, broke the night. Be healed, be forgiven, follow me, can break every darkness you've known. That's the authority of the Word. That's the power of God Himself. It's not distant thunder, but a whisper that remakes worlds. So now the question isn't whether you believe in God, it's whether you've recognized His voice, because He's not waiting in the clouds. He's been speaking since the beginning, and the Word was God. That means He still is, now, here, in you. Through Him all things were made. Through Him all things were made. A short sentence. Infinite scope. Not everything you can touch, see, or even dream came through one doorway. Him, not a cosmic accident. Not an impersonal force. A person. A word. A will. Creation didn't happen around Him. It happened through Him. The universe is not God, but it's full of His fingerprints. It's the sound of His speech, frozen in physical form. When John says through Him, all things were made, he's not just describing the birth of stars. He's describing the blueprint of reality, the divine architecture behind every atom. Before there was mass or motion, there was a mind, and that mind wasn't cold or mechanical. It was radiant with love. The breath of BGNians, imagine it. Darkness stretched across nothing. No color, no vibration. No time then. A word, a pulse, a frequency that ripped silence in half. And suddenly, light. Not merely photons, but the first revelation of God's personality. Light is the visible vocabulary of the invisible God. It's its first sentence written in energy. That's how creation began. A conversation between the Father and the Son, breathed into existence by the Spirit. Each "let there be" was a love letter between them. Every command, a note in the song of communion. And through that word, through Him, everything was made. Every grain of dust in the Milky Way. Every drop of blood in your veins. Every star burning 500 million miles away. He imagined it. He desired it. He spoke it. And it became. Creation is not our whim. We treat the universe like chaos, but chaos never built a cathedral. Look closer. The geometry of snowflakes, the precision of planetary orbits, the elegance of DNA spirals, a code of 3 billion letters, each one whispering the same secret. Through Him, all things were made. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Even your existence is intentional design. The same logos that formed the stars also formed your soul. That's why you ache for meaning, because you were made by meaning himself. You were spoken into existence by the God who never wastes words. You are not a coincidence. You are a sentence in the language of eternity. The voice that still SBAKs the power of the word didn't end on the sixth day. The voice that said, "Let there be light," is still saying, "Let there be life." Every healing, every miracle, every transformation is an echo of Genesis, still reverberating through time. When Jesus stood outside Lazarus' tomb and cried, "Come forth," he wasn't performing a trick. He was doing what he had always done, speaking creation into chaos. Death had to obey because it recognized that voice. It had heard it before, at the dawn of time. Through him, all things were made, which means nothing is too broken for his word to remake. The same authority that birthed galaxies can rebuild your life. All he needs is space to speak again. When he speaks, order returns. When he speaks, purpose awakens. When he speaks, the darkness remembers who it belongs to. Everything has a Pew RPO SCI look around you. Every mountain, every storm, every sunrise. None of it is random. The waves crash in rhythm because he wrote their rhythm. The stars sing in frequencies because he tuned them. The trees sway like worshipers because they remember his breath. And if the stars can sing, if the wind can obey, then so can you, because you are made of the same creative substance, his word. When he spoke creation into existence, you were already in his thought. You are not an afterthought. You are an intended thought. That's why the world feels incomplete without its creator. Everything made through him is meant to find its purpose in him. Disconnected, creation decays. Reconnected, creation worships. All things were made through him. The Greek preposition here, dia, means through, by means of K, implies continual dependence. Creation doesn't just owe its origin to him, it owes its existence. The universe doesn't run on gravity, it runs on grace. Every atom is held together by his will. Every second exists because he says, continue. The sun burns because he tells it to burn. And if he whispered, stop, everything would fall back into silence. You were literally living in the breath of God when creation forgets its CRA2R but. Here's the tragedy. We live in a world that enjoys creation, but ignores the creator. We've fallen in love with the echo, but forgotten the voice. We marvel at the stars, yet doubt the one who made them. We study light with telescopes, yet reject the light that gives us life. And because of that, the world feels hollow. We are surrounded by beauty, but starved of wonder, because without the word, creation loses its song. You were never meant to admire creation. You are meant to join it, to be part of the chorus that declares his glory. You are not outside the story. You are a verse inside it. When you create, love, forgive, imagine, you are continuing what began in Genesis. You are letting the word create through you. That's the secret of divine artistry. He didn't just make creation through the word. He continues creation through those who carry the word. You are meant to be a vessel of Genesis. When you speak truth, light appears. When you forgive, chaos finds order. When you love, creation expands again. Because creation never ended. It just changed hands. The cosmic Mayar. I imagine this. The galaxies are mirrors, reflecting their maker, each one whispering, we were made through you. And when humanity finally looks up and whispers back, we were too, the circle completes. All of existence becomes worship, because that's what it was designed for. Through him, all things were made, and through him, all things will be remade. That's the promise embedded in creation itself. Every dying star, every fallen leaf, every broken heart, all of it groans, waiting for the word to speak again, for the final let there be that will renew all things. The same word that built the universe will one day rebuild it. The Alpha, who spoke it into motion, will be the Omega, who brings it back into glory. In between those two words, Alpha and Omega, your story unfolds. You are not an accident in the cosmos. You are part of its design. You are the echo of a voice still creating. Through him, all things were made. Okay, and that means through him, you still can be. T5, in him was life, life. The one thing every creature fights to keep, and yet no one truly understands. We measure it in heartbeats, in breaths per minute, in years that fade too quickly. But John writes something different. He says, in him was life, not around him, not from him. In him, he is not a distributor of life. He is life. Every spark, every seed, every heartbeat is borrowed from his being. When John penned that sentence, he wasn't talking about biology. He was talking about essence, about the truth that every form of vitality, every rhythm of creation, flows from a single eternal source, and that source has a name. The breath that made the stars before there was breath in lungs. There was breath in God before the first heartbeat. There was the heartbeat of eternity. In him was life. It's the same breath that hovered over the waters in Genesis. The same whisper that turned dust into a man. The same word that keeps atoms dancing and oceans rising. You see, the mystery of existence is not that there is something instead of nothing. The mystery is that something is alive. Life didn't crawl out of chaos. It descended from heaven. It didn't evolve from accidents. It flowed from awareness. Every cell carries the echo of his voice, live. That's why the simplest organism and the mightiest angel share one common origin, the living breath of the Word. In him was life. It's not metaphor. It's mechanics of eternity. You exist because he wills it. You inhale borrowed divinity with every breath. The difference between existence and LIF, there's a difference between being alive and truly living. Plants exist. Animals breathe. But only humans were made to receive life consciously. That's why we ache for meaning. That's why money, fame, power, none of it satisfies. Because your body runs on oxygen, but your soul runs on the Word. You can be alive in every way the world defines, and still be dead on the inside. You can have success, applause, adventure, and still lie awake at night, feeling hollow. That emptiness is not failure. It's signal. It's your soul reminding you that it wasn't made for survival. It was made for communion. In him was life. The in him is the secret. Outside of him, you can exist, but you cannot live. You were designed to draw breath from his presence. You were created not just to move, but to resonate with his energy. That's why worship feels like breathing again. That's why repentance feels like coming home. Because your lungs were made for air, but your spirit was made for him. When life speaks into detest, every miracle in the Gospels is a collision between death and that life. A leading woman touches his robe, and disease vanishes. A dead girl's hand is lifted, and her heart restarts. A tomb opens at his command, and death runs for its life. Why? Because life doesn't fight death, it overrides it. You can't argue darkness out of a room. You turn on the light. Likewise, when life walks into death, death evaporates. That's why the devil doesn't fear religion. He fears resurrection. He fears the moment when dead things start breathing again. Because that's when Jesus shows up. In him was life, and that life is still moving. It's not trapped in a verse. It's not confined to the first century. It still walks through hospitals, still whispers in prison cells, still visits graves and broken hearts, saying the same word he said since the dawn of time: live. The rhythm of Havian life is not random, it's rhythmic. The entire universe beats with divine tempo. The planets orbit like gears in a living clock. The tides rise and fall like lungs inhaling and exhaling. Even your heartbeat mirrors heaven, two beats, systole and diastole, give and receive. Just like grace and faith, All creation is synchronized to his pulse. That's why sin feels like suffocation, breaks rhythm with life. And that's why surrender feels like resurrection. You fall back into sync when you return to him. Your heart starts to match heaven's tempo again. Your thoughts align with eternity's current. You stop striving and start flowing. In him was life. In him, not in the system. In him, not in yourself. In him, not in your plans or your fears, because life outside, the source is just motion without meaning. The logos in the live ENG, every philosophy tries to explain life, but only the logos embodies it. Science can describe how life behaves, but not why it began. Medicine can extend it, but not define its purpose. John answers both in one breath. In him was life. That means life isn't something God gives, it's what he is. To know him is to know vitality. To walk with him is to walk in resurrection. To believe in him is to borrow eternity. He doesn't just revive, he redefines. Because when you encounter him, life doesn't return to what it was, it becomes what it was meant to be. That's why the gospel isn't self-improvement, it's rebirth. Not a better version of you, a brand new creation, breathing the air of heaven. Life, as LHD John continues, in him was life, and that life was the light of men, because life doesn't hide, it illuminates. Everywhere he goes, clarity follows, truth awakens, shadows flee. That's what happens when real life enters a person. Confusion begins to fade, fear starts to lose its voice, and suddenly things make sense again, not because they got easier, because light came in. That's the secret of divine life. It doesn't remove pain, it redeems it. It doesn't erase night, it fills it with stars. That's the kind of life Jesus offers, not longer days, but brighter ones. Not endless time, but eternal purpose. In him was life, not theory, not theology, reality. You can feel it when you pray, and something inside you stirs. You can sense it when grace hits your heart like lightning. That's not emotion, that's life, recognizing life. The I invite TAT, so here's the question. John leaves hanging in the air. If life is in him, and you feel empty, what are you waiting for? Stop searching for meaning in dust when it's written in divinity. Stop trying to manufacture purpose when you can receive it. You were never meant to build life. You were meant to abide in it. The invitation is simple, but eternal. Come back to the source. Come back to the breath. Come back to the one who never stopped saying, live, because he didn't just give you life once. He's the life that keeps you alive now. And when you finally rest in him, the universe begins to make sense again, because you realize the life that built the stars was always meant to live in you. 6. And that life was the light of men before the sun ever rose. There was another kind of light, not born from fire or fusion, but from life itself. John writes, and that life was the light of men. It's not a poetic flourish. It's a cosmic equation. Life equals light. The breath that made you live is the same fire that makes you see. Because the purpose of life is not simply to exist, it's to perceive, to know, to awaken. When God said, let there be light, he wasn't inventing photons, he was unveiling revelation. Light was the first language of understanding. It's how invisible meaning became visible matter. So when John says that life was the light of man, he's declaring something stunning. True awareness begins in God. You don't find truth by climbing the mountain of intellect. You receive it when the light rises inside you. Light is not a thing. It's a PR soul in humanity has always chased enlightenment. Every culture, every religion, every age has searched for illumination, a way to see beyond the veil. But John doesn't say, in him was the way to light. He says that life was the light. In other words, you don't discover truth. You meet him. Light is not a philosophy. It's not a system. It's not a secret knowledge reserved for the elite. Light is a person. The moment you encounter the word, your soul wakes up. Suddenly, what was confusing becomes clear. What was meaningless becomes holy. What was ordinary becomes sacred. Because revelation doesn't come from studying creation. It comes from standing in the presence of its creator. That life was the light of men. This is John's definition of consciousness itself. You are aware because he is aware in you. Your ability to perceive, to love, to wonder is borrowed from his light. You don't generate light, you reflect it. You don't manufacture wisdom, you receive it. The moment you realize this, pride dies and worship begins. The light inside the Darkness. But here's the tension. The world is full of light, and yet men walk in darkness. Why? Because sin isn't just disobedience, it's blindness. The serpent didn't tempt Eve with death. He tempted her with counterfeit light. He said, "Your eyes will be opened." And yes, they were but to shame, not to glory. Humanity traded divine illumination for self-illumination, and in trying to become gods, we went blind to God. That's why Jesus didn't just come to forgive. He came to illuminate. He came to restore sight, not just to eyes, but to hearts. Because darkness isn't out there, it's inside. It's not the absence of sunlight, it's the absence of understanding. It's when truth is right in front of you, but your spirit can't recognize it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That's not optimism, that's warfare. It means light doesn't retreat. It fights, relentlessly, quietly, triumphantly. The darkness can scream, mock, or crucify, but it cannot conquer. Because every shadow is temporary when life walks in. The enemy of light isn't night. I tease, pied idea darkness. Doesn't fear the light, it just refuses to face it. The proud man lives under the sun and still dies blind, because pride doesn't let light in. The humble, on the other hand, can be in a prison cell and still see heaven clearly, because revelation doesn't depend on location, it depends on posture. That's why the first step into light isn't discovery, it's surrender. It's admitting, I cannot see unless you make me see. When that happens, your mind stops being your master and becomes your servant again. Your soul starts receiving instead of resisting, and suddenly, the word becomes your vision. The light and the faces, every face you've ever loved, glows because of light. Light reveals shape, color, texture, reality. Without it, even beauty disappears. So imagine what divine light does to the human soul. It doesn't just reveal, it restores. It shows you who you are and whose you are. That's why the Bible says, the Lord make his face shine upon you. It's not poetry, it's physics of the spirit. When his face shines on you, you see yourself in his eyes, and that changes everything. Because when you see yourself in his light, you stop chasing shadows. You stop pretending to be your own source. You start glowing with borrowed glory. That's why Moses came down from Sinai shining. That's why Stephen's face glowed when he saw heaven open. Because when life meets flesh, flesh becomes radiant. And now, through the word, that same light has entered the world permanently. You no longer have to climb a mountain to find it. The mountain has descended to you. The light that thinks. Through YOU, this is the staggering truth John unveils. The same divine intelligence that built galaxies is the same consciousness that allows you to think, feel, and love. You are not a random collection of neurons. You are a vessel for revelation. Every time you forgive, you echo divine light. Every time you create beauty, you transmit divine life. That life was the light of men. It means human brilliance is divine borrowed fire. Science, art, music, poetry, every spark of genius is a reflection of the true light. But here's the warning. Remove life from the center, and light turns toxic. Knowledge without reverence becomes arrogance. Intelligence without intimacy becomes idolatry. You can build a tower to heaven and still miss God standing beside you. That's why every civilization without the word eventually collapses. Because when light cuts itself off from its source, it burns out. But when connected to Him, light never dies, it multiplies. The purpose of LIGHTD light was never meant to be hoarded, it was meant to be shared. The more you give it, the brighter it becomes. That's why Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." He wasn't flattering you, He was deputizing you. He was saying, "You carry my flame now. Don't hide it. Don't dim it. Don't blend in. Because if life has touched you, light must flow from you. You don't need to shout to shine. You just need to stay close to the source. The moon has no light of its own, yet it lights the night because it faces the sun. That's you. You reflect the glory you behold. Turn your face away and you fade. Turn your face toward Him and the world starts to see the final truth, and that life was the light of men. John didn't say is, he said was, because from heaven's perspective, the light is already victorious. It's not waiting to win, it has already won. The story of history isn't the struggle between good and evil, it's the spread of light through dark corners. The outcome is not in question. The light wins every time, everywhere, always, and right now. It's reaching for you again. You don't need to manufacture enlightenment. You don't need to fight your way to vision. You just need to look up and whisper, "Let there be light in me." Because the same light that made the stars was always meant to make you shine. 7. The light shines in the darkness. It begins with a declaration, not a debate. The light shines in the darkness. No apology, no hesitation, no question mark. Just shines. This is how the universe started and how it will end. A single light speaking into endless dark. A word slicing through silence. A presence entering absence. From that moment on, history has been a story of collision. Every age, every soul, every system caught in the tension between illumination and shadow. And yet John doesn't write, "The light shined in the darkness." He writes, "The light shines." Present tense. It's not a story that ended. It's still happening right now, in you, in every human heart. In every place where truth fights to breathe, the light is still shining. The nature of dark and SS darkness has no substance. It's not a force. It's a vacancy. It's what remains when the light is refused. That's why it can look powerful, because absence always looks endless. You can stare into a void and feel fear. But darkness only exists as long as light is missing. The moment light enters, darkness vanishes. No resistance, no negotiation. It simply can't coexist. So when the Word steps into the world, He doesn't fight like humans fight. He doesn't need weapons or armies. He simply shows up and darkness loses its definition. The shadows that espiate, but darkness is clever. It doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like comfort, distraction, even religion. It whispers, "You can have your own truth. You don't need the light. You are the light." That's the oldest lie in creation, the echo of Eden, the serpent's voice disguised as self-empowerment. And every time humanity believes it, the shadows grow longer, because darkness doesn't demand worship. It just wants you to turn your face away. One glance off the source, and your glow begins to fade. That's why John's words burn with urgency. The light shines in the darkness. He's not describing weather. He's describing war. Every lie, every addiction, every secret sin is not just moral failure. It's a battlefield. It's a war between what God said and what the enemy twisted. And in that war, the light never retreats. The invincible light, the darkness, has not overcome it. That's not hope. That's history. It means there has never been a moment, not in the cosmos, not in the cross, not in your chaos, where darkness has ever won. From the fall of Lucifer to the death of Jesus, darkness has only ever delayed light's revelation, never stopped it. Think about that. Even the crucifixion, the darkest moment in history, was the moment light did its deepest work. When the sun refused to shine, the sun refused to die in vain. And from the tomb's black silence, life exploded again. You can seal a grave, but you can't silence the word. You can nail flesh, but you can't bind light. The very thing darkness tried to bury became the seed of resurrection, the light inside. We viewed that same light now lives in you. If Christ dwells in you, then you carry the unkillable flame. The same light that split the void, that shattered death, that terrified hell burns quietly inside your spirit. That's why the enemy doesn't attack your strength. He attacks your sight. Because if you can't see the light within you, you'll believe you're trapped in shadow. He can't destroy the flame, so he distracts it. He fills your mind with noise, your heart with shame, your days with hurry, until you forget. You were born luminous, but you are. You are not trying to find the light. You are learning to remember it, to peel away the layers of fear, failure, and false identity until the fire that's been there all along begins to glow again. The light shines in the darkness. That's not a command, it's a fact. Whether you see it or not, whether you feel it or not, it's shining, even here, even now. The night can't in darkness is loud. It roars through headlines, screams through politics, seeps through entertainment, poisons culture. It wants to convince you that it's growing. But light doesn't measure itself by noise. It measures by presence. And presence always wins, no matter how thick the night becomes. It only takes one flame to redefine the room. One word from God can rewrite centuries of silence. One act of forgiveness can dismantle generations of hatred. One prayer whispered in faith can shift nations, because darkness can't argue with light. It can only imitate it. And imitation always burns out, but the true light burns forever, because its source is eternity itself. The light is a PRSOA, you see? Light isn't just a force, it's Him. Jesus doesn't carry illumination. He is illumination. When He said, "I am the light of the world," He wasn't giving a metaphor. He was giving identity. Every time He enters a room, revelation happens. Every time He enters a life, clarity happens. Every time He enters a grave, resurrection happens. Because light doesn't visit, it transforms. That's what John saw. The Word didn't stay cosmic. He stepped into the dust and turned dirt into mirrors. He turned fishermen into apostles, sinners into saints, fearful men into flaming witnesses. He didn't bring light to them. He awakened the light within them. And He's doing the same thing now with you. Your turn to Satchini. You are not a spectator of this war. You are a soldier of light. The same flame that once hovered over the waters now hovers over your chaos, waiting for you to say the same word God said. Let there be. Let there be forgiveness. Let there be courage. Let there be joy again. Because when you speak in faith, you partner with the Word that created everything. You join the fight. You become the answer. The light shines through you. That's why the enemy tries to isolate you, so you forget you're luminous. But you can't hide fire. You can only smother it with fear. And fear has already lost. The final truth, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. That's not a slogan. It's the summary of eternity, from the birth of creation to the end of time. The outcome never changes. Light wins, so don't despair at the shadows. They are proof that light is near. Darkness only gathers where glory is about to break. So stand still. Don't curse the night. Ignite it. Because you were never meant to fear the dark. You were meant to define it. The Word is still speaking. The light is still shining. And the darkness still losing. 8. There was a man sent from God. His name was John. After all the thunder of eternity, after galaxies born and darkness broken, the story narrows down to a single heartbeat. There was a man, not an angel, not a throne. A man is almost shocking, isn't it? Heaven has just revealed the word eternal, divine, infinite, and the very next sentence brings us face to face with ordinary humanity, because that's how God moves. He doesn't just thunder from above, he speaks through people. There was a man sent from God. That's the mystery of divine strategy. Eternity always needs a voice in time. Heaven has a message, but it chooses a mouth, and that mouth is dust wrapped in destiny. The shock of being CHOS and John the Baptist wasn't impressive by human standards. He didn't wear royal robes. He didn't preach in temples. He lived in wilderness, clothed in camel's hair, feeding on locusts and wild honey. If he walked into our world today, he'd probably be ignored. Too strange, too raw, too unpolished. But heaven recognized him, because heaven doesn't look for perfect vessels. It looks for empty ones, vessels that can carry the fire without trying to control it. There was a man sent from God. It's not a career choice, it's a calling. It means you didn't start this. You were drafted into it, and that's true, not just for John, but for you. You were not born randomly. You were sent. Your existence is not an accident, it's an assignment. Somewhere in eternity, God whispered your name and said, "Go." And then you were born. That's why there's always a tension inside you, the sense that you're from somewhere else. You were sent from God into this generation, this city, this time. You carry a frequency heaven still recognizes. That's why the world's noise never satisfies you. You were built for a higher sound, a voice. Not an ECHO. John wasn't famous for his style. He was famous for his sound. I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness. K didn't echo culture. He didn't recycle tradition. He carried something raw, original, divine, and that's what it means to be sent from God. It means your voice doesn't belong to the world. It doesn't serve applause. It serves purpose. When John spoke, he didn't repeat what others were saying. He declared what heaven was saying. There's a difference between echoing and proclaiming. Echoes fade, voices create. Echoes impress, voices awaken. You weren't made to blend in with the noise. You were made to pierce it. That's why the wilderness was John's platform. When the world silences you, heaven amplifies you. Because wilderness doesn't kill the called, it clarifies them. Sent to be a WITNSS. John's mission wasn't to build a brand, it was to bear witness. He came as a witness to testify about the light. He wasn't the light, but he reflected it, and he knew the difference. That's the mark of every true servant. They don't mistake reflection for source. They shine, but they point away from themselves. Heaven trusted John with proximity to glory because it could trust him with humility. When people asked, "Who are you? Are you the Messiah?" He said, "I am not." That's rare today, in a world desperate to be seen. John was content to point. He knew his role: prepare the way, announce what's coming, then step aside. Because the goal of a true witness is not recognition, it's revelation. The fire of obedience. See, what made John powerful wasn't charisma. It was conviction. He burned because he believed. He spoke because he couldn't stay silent. He didn't wait for permission to obey. He didn't need confirmation to speak truth. He didn't fear kings or crowds, because when you're sent from God, you don't fear those who are merely born of men. That's why John could call out corruption even in palaces. He wasn't reckless. He was sent. And when you're sent, obedience becomes your oxygen. You can't live in compromise because it suffocates your assignment. John didn't play politics with destiny. He didn't ask, "What will they think?" He asked, "What did God say?" And that's what kept him alive, even when the world took his head. Heaven took his hand, because martyrdom isn't failure, it's completion. The world ends your body. God receives your mission. What being sent looks like it. To be sent from God means three things. You don't choose the timing. John didn't schedule his birth. He was born exactly when prophecy required it. The same is true of you. You are here now because heaven decided now. You don't choose the audience. John's crowd was rough. Soldiers, sinners, skeptics. But your assignment is not about comfort. It's about obedience. You don't choose the ending. John's story ended in prison, but his message ended in eternity. That's what happens when you live sent. Your life may end on earth, but your echo keeps preaching forever. Ordinary men, eternal missions. There was a man sent from God. Let that sentence break your excuses, because if God can use John, he can use you. You don't need to be extraordinary. You just need to be available. You don't need to know the plan. You just need to know the sender. When heaven sends you, the wilderness becomes a pulpit. Your weakness becomes a weapon. Your scars become sermons. And every time you speak truth in a world of noise, you continue John's ministry. You make straight the way for the Lord. The calling still is this. It's not ancient history. It's current prophecy. Because God is still sending men and women today. Still looking for voices, not performers. Still searching for those who will cry in wildernesses, digital ones, political ones, spiritual ones, and say, prepare the way of the Lord. You are not a spectator in the gospel. You are a continuation of it. You are the messenger in your generation. Heaven still writes stories beginning with, there was a man, or there was a woman, sent into chaos, armed with light. And the world is waiting for your verse. So the question isn't whether God still sends. The question is, will you still go? Because somewhere in eternity, your name is written in the same sentence. There was a man sent from God, whose name was, and the rest is what you do next. 10. He was not the light, but came to bear witness of the light. There's a thin line between reflection and deception, and every messenger of heaven walks it. John the Baptist burned so brightly that people mistook him for the Messiah. Crowds gathered. Pharisees investigated. Even Rome heard the rumors. There's a prophet in the wilderness who might be the one. But John knew something. Most men forget that proximity to glory doesn't make you divine. He was not the light. That's one of the most powerful sentences in all of Scripture. Not because it diminishes John, but because it defines him. The danger of CO1's glory has gravity. People are drawn to it. And when the light of God burns through your life, the world will try to orbit you. They'll praise you. They'll quote you. They'll make you a brand. But John understood every spotlight that lands on him must be redirected toward the source. That's why he said, he must increase. I must decrease. That's not insecurity. That's spiritual physics. Because if the reflection begins to crave worship, it stops reflecting. It becomes a mirror turned inward, and that's how light dies. The test of every MSS&GR, every servant of God, faces the same temptation. Lucifer faced to take glory that isn't theirs. Lucifer was once the brightest being in heaven. He reflected the light of God perfectly. But one day, reflection wasn't enough. He wanted ownership. He said, I will ascend. And just like that, the first shadow was born. The fall didn't begin with rebellion. In action, it began with pride in reflection. And ever since, God has raised up men like John to prove that light can shine in humility. He was not the light. Those 5 words were John's armor. They protected him from pride, from delusion, from spiritual vanity. He carried power, but never mistook himself for the source. The beauty of bearing witness to bear. Witness means to carry something luminous without claiming ownership. It's like holding a torch for someone else. The fire burns in your hands, but it's not yours to keep. It's borrowed. It's entrusted. It's holy. When you live like that, you stop performing and start transmitting. Your ministry stops being about identity and becomes about impact, because When light moves through you, you stop trying to prove who you are and start revealing who he is. That's what made John unstoppable. He didn't chase influence. He carried clarity. He wasn't trying to be remembered. He was trying to make. Jesus recognized the light doesn't need help. It needs SPC notice. John didn't create the light. He simply cleared the way for it. He said, "Make straight the path of the Lord." That's what true ministry is. Not inventing revelation, but removing obstacles. Sometimes the best thing you can do for the light is get out of its way, because the word doesn't need decoration. It needs declaration. When you stop crowding it with ego, it shines effortlessly. That's why God often hides his strongest vessels in wildernesses, not because he's punishing them, but because he's protecting them from applause. Public admiration can do what persecution never could. It can seduce you, but solitude keeps you sharp. It reminds you, you are the moon, not the sun. You don't generate, you reflect. The anatomy of highlight white humility isn't self-hatred. It's accurate awareness. It's knowing your place in the equation of glory. It's saying, I am not the light, but I carry its echo. John didn't pretend to be worthless. He knew his authority. He baptized nations, rebuked kings, and spoke face to face with the Messiah. But even then, he said, I am not worthy to untie his sandals. Dij, that's the sound of holy awe, not insecurity. He understood that greatness without reverence becomes poison. That revelation without humility becomes corruption. True humility doesn't dim your flame. It aligns it. It points every ray of your light back to the source. The mirror presents up imagine this. The moon doesn't produce light. It only reflects the sun. But to us on earth, it glows brilliantly. That's your life in God. If you face the sun, you shine. If you turn away, you fade. The power is not in the mirror. It's in the angle. That's why John's ministry worked. He stayed aligned. Every word, every baptism, every confrontation was angled toward Christ. When Jesus finally appeared, John didn't hesitate. He didn't say, finally, the one I've been building up to. He said, behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. And in that sentence, his mission was complete. He pointed, he vanished, he fulfilled the modern crisis. Reflection without our erring say today. We love to shine. We curate platforms, build brands, chase visibility. We've turned influence into a form of worship. But the tragedy is, we're glowing without the source. We're performing light instead of carrying it. And that's why burnout feels holy now, because people are trying to sustain a flame that only God can maintain. John's life corrects that. He teaches us that power without posture is collapse, that the goal isn't to be seen, it's to make him visible. He was not the light, but came to bear witness of the light. That's the balance we lost, and the balance we must recover. The paradox of GLOY here's the divine paradox. The more you surrender, the brighter you shine. The more invisible you become, the more visible he becomes through you. John's decrees didn't make him dimmer, it made him pure, because true brightness isn't measured by attention, it's measured by accuracy. Every soul that pointed others to Christ without taking credit became immortal in heaven's story. And that's how you outshine time, by living as a witness, not a replacement. The final word, he was not the light. Let that line liberate you. You don't have to be the answer. You just have to point to it. You don't have to fix the world. You just have to reflect the one who can dot, because the glory that burns through you was never meant to stop at you. You are not the source. You are the spark, not the flame, the flint. And when you stay aligned with the light, you never burn out. You burn on, because real humility doesn't hide light, it multiplies it. It becomes a living lens through which the world finally sees God clearly. So remember this thing, you are not the light, but you carry it. You are not the source, but you speak for it. And if you keep pointing instead of posing, you will shine longer, deeper, and truer than those who try to replace the sun. Because, in the end, heaven will only say one thing about you. He was not the light, but he bore witness of the light, and the darkness never forgot him. 9. He came as a witness to testify about the light. Heaven doesn't waste words. When John writes, he came as a witness, he isn't describing an occupation, he's describing an identity. John the Baptist didn't choose to become a witness. He was born to be one. Every cell in his body, every day of his life was synchronized to a single mission, to testify about the light. The difference between a preacher and a witness: a preacher explains truth. A witness reveals it. A preacher talks from knowledge. A witness speaks from experience. You can memorize scripture and still miss revelation. But once you've seen the light, you can't stay silent. That's what John carried. He wasn't selling religion. He wasn't offering philosophy. He was a burning lamp declaring, he's coming. The light you've been waiting for, he's here. That's the sound of a true witness. It's not polished. It's not marketable. It's raw. It's divine fire trapped in human lungs. A witness is someone who has seen SONT, a change of GING. The word witness means someone who has seen and cannot unsee. That's what separates those who talk about God from those who burn for him. John had seen the light before the light appeared in public. He recognized the presence of Jesus even when no one else did. He leapt in the womb at his approach because spirit recognizes spirit. That's the mark of a real witness. They sense divine movement before the world does. They feel revival coming before the headlines catch up. They carry awareness of heaven in a world distracted by dust. When you are a witness, you don't wait for proof. You are the proof. The world doesn't need more opinions. T needs evidence. John didn't come to offer commentary. He came to offer confirmation. He didn't explain the light. He pointed to it and said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." That's what the world is waiting for again. Not clever arguments, not prettier theology, but lives that shine so bright they make people whisper, "Surely, the light is among us." Because the greatest testimony isn't in words, it's in presence. When the light truly burns in you, people feel it before you say it. Your very atmosphere becomes prophetic. You walk into rooms and conviction follows. You speak one sentence and hearts shift. That's not charisma, that's combustion. The cost of TSDFYNG. But let's be honest, being a witness isn't safe. John's story proves it. The light he testified about attracted the very darkness he opposed. Truth always draws fire. When you carry divine light, you become a mirror in a world allergic to reflection. People will project their shadows onto you. They'll call your conviction judgment. They'll call your boldness arrogance. But you must remember, your job isn't to be liked. Your job is to testify. He came as a witness. That means you show up where God sends you, not to blend in, but to blaze. And that fire will make some follow you and others fight you. That's okay. It means you're doing it right. When you speak, heaven speaks through why John's words were wild and simple. Repent. The kingdom of heaven is near. And yet, those words carried seismic power. Why? Because they weren't his. When you testify about the light, you become a conduit for heaven's voice. The same frequency that called creation into being moves through your syllables. That's why the enemy tries to silence you. He knows your testimony isn't just talk, it's transmission. Every time you declare truth, you're not just speaking about God, you're speaking with him. He uses your mouth to broadcast light into darkness. That's why silence is never neutral. If you're quiet when you're called to witness, you leave darkness unchallenged. But when you speak, even trembling, even unsure, the light amplifies through your weakness. The fire and the Ephesians John never confused his assignment with his identity. He said plainly, "I am not the light." He refused to compete with the glory he carried. That's a warning for every generation of messengers. Don't mistake reflection for source. When the people tried to crown him, he said, "I'm just the voice." And that's what kept his flame pure. The minute you think the light depends on you, your flame turns into smoke. But when you remember who you are, a witness, not a savior, you burn clean again. John's greatness wasn't in being worshipped, it was in pointing worship away from himself. That's why Jesus called him the greatest among those born of women. Because greatness isn't how bright you shine, it's how accurately you point. The purpose of testimony, he came as a witness to testify about the light, so that all might believe through him. That's the goal, not attention, not applause, but belief that every act of witnessing is an invitation to faith. When people see your life, your peace in chaos, your mercy in betrayal, your joy in suffering, they are seeing the reflection of the light that changed you, and that reflection calls them home. Because testimony isn't a speech, it's a bridge. It carries others from doubt into encounter. When you tell what you've seen, you reopen heaven over their heads. That's the divine chain reaction. You were lit by someone else's witness, and now you light others by yours. The light spreads, soul to soul, generation to generation, until the whole earth glows again. Your turn to TSDFY. The verse doesn't end with John, it continues with you. Two are sent to testify about the light. You don't need to be perfect to speak, you just need to be honest. You don't need to know all theology, you just need to know your story. The power of your testimony is not in your eloquence, it's in your encounter. You've seen light in your darkness. You felt grace in your failure. You've heard whispers of eternity when everything else was silent. That's enough. That's your sermon. Every time you open your mouth and say, "I was lost, but now I see," you repeat John's message in your generation. The eternal echo, he came as a witness. 5 words that define every disciple. You are not just surviving time, you are representing eternity. Your life is a megaphone for divine memory. You exist so the light can keep speaking through you. And one day, when history ends and time folds back into eternity, heaven will echo your name the same way it echoed John's. There was a man sent from God who came as a witness to testify about the light. Okay, and somewhere a generation will have believed because you refused to stay silent. 11. The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world from eternity's horizon. The light began to move, not as lightning, but as a heartbeat, not as an idea, but as a person. The true light, which gives light to every man, was coming into the world. Okay. This is the crescendo of divine intent. The Word who once spoke galaxies into motion now takes a breath of human air. The flame that hung the stars steps into the shadows of the world he made. Heaven doesn't just send revelation this time. Heaven becomes revelation. The true LAGHD John calls Tim the true light. That means there are false ones. For ages, humanity chased reflections. Philosophers, mystics, rulers, empires, all claiming illumination, all promising truth. But every man-made light eventually flickers out. Every system, every idol, every ideology burns bright for a moment and then collapses under its own illusion. But the true light, he doesn't borrow brightness. He is brightness. He doesn't reflect glory. He radiates it. And when the true light enters, every imitation trembles. Because you don't realize how dark false light was until the real thing arrives. That's why when Jesus walked into history, religion panicked. Because he wasn't teaching about God. He was being God. Light that gives light to every man, not to the chosen few, not to the holy elite. To every man. That means no soul is unreachable. No heart is too far gone. No culture too corrupted. no mind to lost. The light doesn't discriminate. It invades. It finds poets in pagan cities, scientists staring into stars, addicts in alleyways, children in slums, and whispers the same revelation. You are not forgotten. You were made for more. This is not light like sunlight. It's light like awareness, the spark of conscience, the ache for meaning, the hunger for transcendence. Every human being who has ever looked up at the sky and wondered who made this was already being touched by that light. The true light doesn't wait for belief to begin its work. It awakens belief. It starts the search. It's the reason you've ever longed for truth at all. The light that WLKD and then, impossibly, that eternal brilliance walked among men. The one who dwelled in unapproachable light put on approachable flesh. The infinite became intimate. The word became touchable. Imagine that. The light that no eye could endure without going blind, now looks through human eyes and weeps with human tears. He doesn't shout, survival from heaven's throne. He enters through a virgin's womb, through poverty, through obscurity. The same hands that shaped mountains now grasp Mary's fingers. The same voice that thundered, "Let there be light," now coos like a baby in Bethlehem. That's not mythology. That's majesty choosing mercy. The true light didn't demand humanity climb upward. He descended downward. He came into the darkness himself. He walked the dust, breathed our air, felt our pain, and yet never dimmed. He didn't just visit the world, he invaded it. The world. I didn't recognize him, but here's the tragedy. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not recognize him. The artist entered his own painting, and the colors ignored him. The potter stood among his pots, and the clay questioned his authority. The light walked into his own darkness, and men preferred their shadows. Why? Because the true light exposes everything false. It doesn't just illuminate the beautiful, it reveals the broken. It shines into pride, hypocrisy, and hidden motives. And for many, that was too much. They wanted warmth, not exposure. Blessing, not truth. But light cannot compromise. It comes to reveal, not flatter. To cleanse, not comfort illusions. So the world turned its face away, and still, he kept shining. Light as invasion, not ECAP, when John says, coming into the world. K, he means entering enemy territory. This world was under shadow. Humanity was enslaved to deception. Darkness wasn't just around us, it was within us. And yet, the light didn't avoid it. He entered it, walked right into the battlefield. He didn't hover above sin. He stood in its midst. He ate with the corrupt, touched the untouchable, loved the unlovable, and called even death by name, and death had to obey. Because this light isn't fragile. It doesn't fear infection. It brings healing. It doesn't retreat from chaos. It brings order. It doesn't wait for conditions to improve. It creates them. That's the gospel in motion. The invasion of light into darkness. The light that still gives LIGHD. The miracle didn't stop in Bethlehem. The true light still gives light now through you. Every time you forgive, you extend his radiance. Every time you speak truth in love, you magnify his flame. Every time you choose purity in a polluted world, you reflect his essence, because the light that entered the world now lives inside you. He doesn't just shine to you, he shines through you. That's why you can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. The true light is moving through your spirit. It's making invisible truth visible again. The universal INVTATUN John statement ends with a promise. The true light that gives light to every man, every woman, every generation. This means no one is too far gone. No heart is too hard. No history too dark. The light is patient. It keeps knocking, keeps shining, keeps offering the same mercy. Come home the moment anyone turns toward it, even a whisper of faith. the darkness inside begins to dissolve, because the true light doesn't just illuminate your surroundings, it recreates your soul. It doesn't just help you see truth, it makes you become true. That's why no one who truly encounters Jesus stays the same, because light doesn't leave what it touches untouched. The final reality is a true light that gives light to every man who's coming into the world. That is the heartbeat of eternity. That's not past tense, it's continuous. He is still coming, through dreamers, prophets, poets, creators, through anyone who dares to burn purely. He still steps into the world every time you choose grace over hate, truth over fear, love over apathy, because light didn't stop at Bethlehem. It's still spreading through you. The true light has no off switch. It's been shining since the beginning, and it won't stop until the last shadow is gone. So tonight, remember this: you're walking in a world that he already entered. The battle is not between equal powers. The darkness is temporary. The light is eternal. And when you carry him, don't just survive the night, you define it. 12. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came home, and no one recognized him. That's the tragedy in one sentence. The Word, who spoke creation into being, walked its streets, breathed its air, looked into the eyes of his own image, and they looked back at him as if he were a stranger. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. Pause and let that sink in. The carpenter's hands were the same hands that carved galaxies. The dust beneath his feet, he had spoken it into existence. The trees that gave wood for his cross had grown because he said, "Let there be." And yet, when he came to the world he built, the world treated him like a TRE spaz. The creator, UNR's Theogonize, a painter, stepping into his own canvas, walking among his colors, touching his own brushstrokes, only to find the people inside his masterpiece mocking him as a fraud. That's what John is describing. The infinite author enters his own story. Can the characters deny that he wrote them? The same voice that created Adam now echoes in human lungs. The same light that illuminated Eden now stands under Roman skies, unrecognized, unwanted, unwelcomed. It's the greatest irony in existence. Creation adored its own reflection, but ignored its creator. The blindness of the brilliant. And here's the painful truth: it wasn't ignorance that blinded them, it was familiarity. They were experts in scripture, but strangers to the word made flesh. They could quote the prophecies, but couldn't recognize the fulfillment standing in front of them. They wanted a king who conquered Rome, not a lamb who conquered sin. They were looking for power and missed presence. That's the same danger today. We can know about him, serve for him, sing to him, and still not know him, because recognition doesn't come through study, comes through surrender. You don't find God through logic, you find him through revelation. And revelation only comes to the humble. The God who hides, he was in the world. That's incarnation, and the world was made through him. That's creation, yet the world did not know him. That's the wound of divine humility. Why did he hide? Why not arrive in light so bright that no one could deny him? Because love never forces recognition. It invites it. If he appeared in undeniable glory, belief would be automatic, but love would be impossible. So he came quietly, wrapped in poverty, hidden in plain sight, majesty disguised as mercy. Only those with open hearts could see him. The proud missed him. The desperate found him. That's still how he comes today. Not always in thunder, but in whisper. Not in palaces, but in manger moments. Humble, small, divine. The price of Miss R.C. Theogonize. The world didn't just fail to recognize him, it rejected him. The same hands that healed the sick were pierced by the very ones they touched. The same mouth that spoke mercy was accused of blasphemy. The same voice that called Lazarus from the tomb was silenced on the cross. Creation turned on its creator. This is not myth, it's mirror. Because every time we choose pride over presence, self over surrender, we repeat that story. We build kingdoms of distraction, bow to idols of intellect, and still cry out, "Where is God?" While He stands right in front of us, in the hungry, in the hurting, in the quiet conviction of the Spirit, unrecognized again. The God who refuses to be undone one, but even in rejection. He did not leave. He didn't storm heaven's gates in disappointment. He didn't erase creation for its blindness. He stayed. He kept walking among the ungrateful, kept loving the unlovable, kept teaching those who didn't understand, because rejection doesn't change identity. He was still the Word, still the light, still love. And that's the terrifying beauty of grace. It doesn't stop shining when it's unappreciated. It keeps giving, even when refused. Heaven's greatest mystery isn't that God is powerful, it's that God is patient. Eternal gentleness of God. He didn't shout back when they accused Him. He didn't call down fire when they mocked Him. He let misunderstanding surround Him like shadow and still radiated light. That's how strong He is. He doesn't prove Himself, He embodies Himself. He doesn't compete for attention. He waits to be recognized. That's divine gentleness, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that walks through blindness and still believes eyes can open. When you see Jesus enduring rejection, you're not watching defeat, you're watching restraint, the same Word that could have spoken worlds into judgment chose instead to whisper, "Father, forgive them." It's the paradox of omnipresence. He was in the world. He's still in it. He never left the scene of His creation. The Word still walks among us, not in visible flesh, but in invisible fire. He's in the laughter of children, the compassion of strangers, the wisdom whispered in crisis, and yet the world still does not know Him. We still fill our calendars with noise, our hearts with worry, our screens with shadows, while the same presence that once filled the temple waits quietly beside us. We're too busy for wonder, too distracted for awareness, too smart for surrender. And yet, He's still here, still walking through His own creation, still waiting to be recognized. The redemption of RECOG and Idioan. But here's the hope. Some did recognize Him: fishermen, women, tax collectors, broken people. The overlooked saw what the educated missed, because revelation isn't earned, it's received. And those who bowed low enough to look up saw God face to face. He was in the world, Cass, but He's also in those who believe. Recognition is redemption. The moment you realize who He truly is, your blindness breaks, your history shifts, your world changes. You finally see that He wasn't far, you just weren't looking. The final word: He was in the world, and the world was made through Him. Yet, the world did not know Him. That's not the end of a tragedy. It's the beginning of a miracle, because even though the world didn't know Him, He still knew the world. He still loved it. He still died for it. He still resurrected within it. And one day, every eye will finally see what was standing here all along. The God we ignored was the God who never left. So, if you feel unseen, remember this: the same world that didn't recognize Him couldn't stop Him either. Rejection couldn't erase revelation. Blindness couldn't block glory. He still walks among us, sting, and He still whispers to those who are listening, "I'm here. I was always here. You just didn't know me yet." 13. He came to His own, and His own did not receive Him. He didn't come to conquer foreign lands. He came home, not to Rome, not to Babylon, to Israel, His covenant people. The nation He had carried through wilderness and war, fed with manna, led by fire, covered in mercy. He came to the land that sang His songs, read His prophets, memorized His promises, and still, when He finally appeared, they didn't recognize Him. he came to his own, and his own did not receive him. This is not just a verse. It's the sound of divine heartbreak, the tragedy of Fami Learetha. Saddest blindness is the kind that comes from overexposure. They were so familiar with prophecy, they couldn't see its fulfillment. They expected thunder, but he came as a whisper. They wanted a crown, but he came with the cross. They longed for a warrior, but got a shepherd. They had studied every shadow of Messiah and missed the light himself. That's the danger of religion without revelation. You can spend your whole life studying God and never meet him. You can quote truth and still crucify it. The God who returned He came to his own. That means he had history there. Every hill in Judea had heard his voice before. Every fig tree, every river, every sunrise, they remembered his first words at creation. He wasn't a stranger to this soil. He had walked this land before in glory. Now, he walked it in humility. And that's the scandal. The God who thundered on Sinai now knocks on human doors, asking to be let in. The same presence that once filled Solomon's temple now stands in the streets of Galilee and finds no room to rest. Sad. It's almost unbearable. The king visiting his kingdom incognito, and his subjects shrugging as he passes by. The weight of rejecton to be rejected by enemies is expected. To be rejected by strangers is survivable, but to be rejected by your own, that cuts deeper than any spear. Every miracle he performed was for the children of his covenant. Every sermon he preached was a reminder of promises made long before they were born. And yet, when truth stood before them, they chose tradition over transformation. They said, "We have Moses," and he, the God who spoke to Moses, stood before them, silent under their accusations. Can you feel the divine restraint in that moment? The same mouth that formed the stars, refusing to defend itself against human's understanding. That's the humility of God. That's what love looks like when rejected. The shadow of betrayal, he came to his own. And among those owns was Judas, the one who walked beside him, ate with him, laughed with him, heard his voice daily, and still sold him for silver. That's the human condition in miniature, divine presence within reach, but heart still chasing lesser light. Betrayal isn't just history, it's prophecy repeating, because every time we choose comfort over calling, ego over obedience, we echo that same betrayal. We say, we love the miracles, but not the man. We want his power, but not his presence, and yet he keeps coming. The God who keeps Almighty, verse says, he came, not he sent someone. He came himself. That's pursuit. That's relentless mercy. He keeps returning to the very hearts that reject him, because rejection doesn't end relationship with God. It intensifies pursuit. He doesn't storm away. He knocks again. He doesn't curse the door. He stands at it and waits. That's the kind of love that makes heaven gasp. He knew they'd reject him, and still he came. He knew the cross was waiting, and still he walked toward it, because rejection couldn't cancel his reason. He didn't come to be received. He came to redeem. The face of a Regis Sitio. Imagine that night in Nazareth when he preached his first message in the synagogue, his hometown, his people. He read from Isaiah, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me." At first, they marveled. Then they murmured, "Isn't this Joseph's son?" And soon, the same people who grew up with him were dragging him toward a cliff, ready to throw him off. That's what happens when revelation becomes too real. People love the idea of God until he steps into their expectations and rearranges them. The light always divides, not by hatred, but by honesty. It forces every heart to choose between comfort and truth. The redemption hidden in rejecton, but here's the divine twist. Their rejection became our redemption. The very act of being refused became the road to the cross, and a cross became the bridge for the world. If his own had embraced him, salvation would have stayed local. But when they pushed him away, He opened his arms to the nations. What they rejected, we received. What they cast aside became the cornerstone. That's the mercy of God. He turns even betrayal into blessing. The God who still knocks, he came to his own. That means he's still coming to his church, to his people, to his sons and daughters. And many still don't receive him. We sing about him, but keep him outside our agendas. We build temples in his name, but close the doors when he doesn't fit the program. But he keeps coming. Through conviction, through kindness, through chaos, through the quiet. Every sunrise is a second chance. Every breath is another invitation, because the God who came once is still coming. So every heart that bears his image finally opens the door. The final word, he came to his own, and his own did not receive him. That sentence holds both judgment and mercy, both pain and purpose. It shows us the worst of humanity and the best of divinity. We turned away. He turned toward us. We rejected. He redeemed. That's why this verse isn't the end. It's the threshold, because the very next line will shatter despair with hope. But to all who did receive him. So if you've ever felt rejected, remember, he's been there too. He knows the sting of being unseen by those who should have known better. And yet, he never stopped coming, because the love that walked through rejection is still walking towards you. It's a thing, and it won't stop until every prodigal heart comes home. 14. But to all who did receive him, he gave the right to become children of God. The verse begins with a word that splits eternity. But that one syllable is the sound of reversal, the hinge between despair and destiny. The world rejected him. His own refused him. But some received him, and to those few, that small remnant, that flicker of faith, he gave something creation had never seen before, the right to become children of God, not servants, not followers, not admirers, children. The rebirth of identity defines people by status. Every religion defines people by obedience, but only the Word defines people by relationship. He didn't come to recruit employees. He came to restore family. That's why the gospel isn't an upgrade of humanity. It's a new creation entirely. It's not self-improvement. It's spiritual rebirth. He gave the right to become children of God. You don't earn that right. You don't work for it. You receive it, because adoption doesn't begin with the child. It begins with the tat. It begins with the fathers. Before you ever reached for God, he had already stretched his arms toward you. Before you believed, you were being pursued. That's the divine rhythm. Grace initiates. Faith responds. From creation to ADOPTUN, every human being is made by God. But not everyone lives as a child of God. Creation gave you existence, but only receiving him gives you identity. That's what Jesus came to restore. The family lost in Eden. Adam and Eve didn't just lose paradise, they lost parenthood. They walked away from intimacy with their Creator. They became spiritual orphans, alive, but disconnected from life himself. And every generation since has been born with that ache to belong again. The ache for home. The longing to hear a voice say, "You're mine." Okay? When John writes, he gave the right to become children of God. He's describing heaven's answer to that ache. God doesn't just forgive your sins. He restores your surname, the legal miracle of Gr Sadith. Word right here means authority, a legal standing. In heaven's courtroom, you're not a guest. You're an heir. You're not merely forgiven. You're re-registered as family. The universe knows it. Hell fears it, and heaven celebrates it, because grace doesn't. Just clean your record. It changes your DNA. You don't just get a new future. You get a new father. That's why the gospel is not a moral code. It's a bloodline transfer, a cosmic adoption signed in scarlet ink, the blood of the Lamb, receiving the light, but to all who did receive him. What does that mean? It's not intellectual agreement. It's surrender. It's saying yes even when you don't fully understand. It's opening the door to presence, not just acknowledging doctrine. Receiving Chem means you stop negotiating your worth and start accepting His. It's not about earning light, it's about letting light in, and once you receive Him, the impossible happens. You are reborn from above. Your name is written in heaven. Your heart is rewired. Your soul becomes flame again, because children don't imitate their father's love. They inherit it. The miracle of spiritual biartation continues later. Not born of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. This is not natural birth. It's supernatural rebirth. You didn't join a religion. You were conceived in revelation. The Holy Spirit became your midwife. Grace became your womb. And you emerged, not improved, but new. Your past doesn't define you anymore. Your failures don't name you. Heaven does, because when you're born of God, you inherit His nature. You carry His DNA. You start loving what He loves, hating what He hates, okay? And shining where He shines. It's not imitation, it's inheritance. You don't act holy to become His child. You act holy because you already are. The power of become. Notice the word, become. He gave the right to become children of God. That means this is a process, not a performance. It's transformation unfolding over time. Every day, you're becoming what you already are in heaven. Every act of forgiveness, every moment of worship, every season of faithfulness is you growing into your divine identity. The Father doesn't just call you child. He trains you to live like one, because spiritual maturity isn't climbing up, it's rooting deeper into who He already made you. From orphans to IRS. Think about this. Angels serve, but they are not called children. They stand in awe, but they are not called heirs. Only humans carry this invitation to sit at the Father's table, to wear His name, to carry His Spirit. You don't earn a seat there. You were chosen for it. And once you sit, you never lose it. Because adoption in heaven's law cannot be undone by earthly failure. You can run, but you can't erase blood. You can fall, but you fall into grace. Once you are His, you are always His. The family of LIGHT, the verse, says to all who did receive Him. That means you are not alone. You are part of a family that stretches beyond time, a lineage of light, a royal priesthood of reborn souls. Every time you call God Father, heaven hears the echo of billions saying the same word. From Moses to Mary, from John to you, the same light flows through every name. You belong to the oldest and newest family in existence, not a bloodline of earth, but of eternity, and that family is still growing. Every yes spoken in faith adds another son, another daughter to the Father's house. The final word, but to all who did receive Him. He gave the right to become children of God. That's not a metaphor, that's a miracle. The rejected become received. The wanderers become home. The nameless become named. The lost become loved. And the Father, who was once only whispered about in fear, now walks beside His children and calls them friend. So when the world tries to label you, remember, your birth certificate is written in heaven. When shame whispers, you don't belong, point to the verse that says otherwise. Because the King didn't just save you, He signed His surname over yours. You are not an orphan trying to impress God. You are a child learning to reflect Him. And that's the greatest miracle of all. The day the Creator became Father, and creation became family. 15. Who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, heart, nor of the will of man, but of God. This is the verse that separates religion from revelation. John isn't describing how men join a faith. He's describing how God gives birth to a new species, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. 8. In one line, He dismantles every human claim to divinity. You don't climb into heaven. Heaven is born into you. The birth that begins in ETE, Why? This isn't physical birth. This is origin reborn. Every human being enters the world through natural means: blood, flesh, will. You are born from the desire of two people, born into time, born under limits. But when you receive him, something supernatural happens. A second birth, invisible, unstoppable, eternal. You are reborn from above. That's why Jesus told Nicodemus, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. The kingdom isn't something you reach with your feet. It's something you perceive with new eyes. And those eyes only open when you've been born of God. Not of blood, John begins with what you're not of blood. In Hebrew thinking, blood means lineage, ancestry, heritage. John is saying, salvation doesn't run in your veins. You can't inherit God through genetics. Holiness isn't hereditary. It doesn't matter who your parents were, how religious your family is, what tribe or nation you come from. Grace breaks genealogies. It doesn't run from father to son. It runs from father to soul. In other words, heaven doesn't recognize last names, only new names, nor of the will of the flesh, the second denial, nor of the will of the flesh. This means you can't make yourself spiritual by effort. You can't will your way into holiness. You can't strive your way into transformation. The flesh, no matter how disciplined, cannot manufacture divinity. It can mimic it, perform it, pretend at it, but it can't produce it, because the new birth doesn't start in the body. It starts in the spirit. That's why legalism always fails. It tries to grow fruit from dead roots. It tries to produce life from self-faved. But true holiness isn't self-made, it's spirit-born, nor of the will of Emeonid, the third denial, nor of the will of man. You can't be born again through another person's decision, not through a priest, a preacher, or a parent. No one can believe for you. No one can speak your yes on your behalf. Every soul must open its own door. Faith cannot be outsourced, because this birth is personal. It's not mechanical, it's relational. The will of man can baptize you in water, but only the will of God can baptize you in fire. But of Geodian, then the turning point, but of God. The entire verse climbs toward that phrase like a mountain peak. You were not born of chance, not born of flesh, not born of will, but of God. That means your second birth has no earthly origin, no human fingerprints, no expiration date. It was conceived in divine intention, born from the breath of eternity. The same word that said, "Let there be light," one day whispered over your soul, "Let there be life," Tomia, and you awoke. That's rebirth. It's not a human project. It's a divine event. The divine seed, the scripture says, you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and abiding word of God. 1 Peter 1:23. That means your spirit carries divine DNA. You are made of the same essence as his word. You don't just believe it, you are it, embodied. That's why sin feels foreign now. Your nature has changed. You can still stumble, but you can no longer feel at home in darkness, because light is your lineage. Now, the truth by RTH, every person on earth lives between two births. The first gives you existence. The second gives you meaning. The first makes you human. The second makes you holy. You didn't choose the first. You must choose the second. That's what receiving him really means. Letting the Spirit breathe new life into what was dead. This isn't moral renovation. It's resurrection. You're not upgraded. You're recreated. The spiritual anatomy of new life when you are born of God. Something shifts at the deepest level of your being. Your mind still wrestles. Your body still weakens. But your spirit, it's no longer from earth. It's tuned to another frequency now. You start craving light, truth, purity, purpose. You hear heaven's whispers in everyday moments. You see eternity woven through the ordinary. You start to realize you were never designed for survival. You were designed for glory, and that glory now lives inside you, not metaphorically, but literally. The Spirit of God has taken residence within your frame. That's why hell fears a reborn soul, because it's a piece of heaven, walking in human form. The invisible P, Rove Hal. Do you know you're born of God? Not by feelings, not by titles, but by transformation, when old desires lose their pull, when forgiveness feels possible again, when love begins to override fear. That's the invisible evidence of divine life at work. You're no longer trying to be good. You're learning to be yours. Your actions are no longer motivated by guilt, but by gratitude. You live differently because you are different. The immortal, then the immart. To be born of God is to carry eternity inside temporality. It means death is no longer your destination. It's your doorway, because what's been born of God cannot die. Your body may sleep, but your spirit stays awake. The same power that raised Christ from the dead now pulses inside you. You don't just have eternal life ahead of you. You have it within you right now. The final word, who were born, not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. It's not a description, it's a declaration. It means the truest thing about. Didn't come from earth, it came from eternity. Your soul is older than your scars. Your identity is deeper than your history. And your destiny was written before your DNA ever formed. You are not a random collection of choices. You are the will of God in motion. So walk like what you are, not a reformer trying to impress heaven, but a reborn child carrying heaven within. Because you weren't just saved by God, you were born of God. And what's born of God cannot be unmade, cannot be undone, cannot be stopped. The divine life that began in you will outlive time itself. 16. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us in the beginning. The Word spoke the world into being. Now, in the fullness of time, the Word steps into the world he spoke, and the Word became flesh. 5 words that shattered religion forever. 5 words that made angels bow and demons tremble. The same word that filled the heavens with stars now fills the veins of a baby. The same voice that thundered, "Let there be light," now whispers, "Mother." The infinite put on limitation. The Holy One put on humanity. The timeless one stepped into clocks and calendars. This is not mythology. This is incarnation. God moving in next door. The impossible made IONT MAT every. Religion in history has built ladders to reach God. But in this verse, God burns the ladder down and walks down himself. He doesn't demand mankind climb up to heaven. He brings heaven down to man. He didn't appear in thunder and smoke this time. He appeared in the cry of a newborn child. No army, no trumpet, no temple. Just a mother, a manger, and majesty wrapped in mortality. That's the scandal of grace. God hiding in simplicity. The infinite hiding in an infant. The Word in human form, the Word became flesh. Not illusion, not symbolism, flesh. God didn't just seem human, he became human. He got tired, he wept, he bled, he felt hunger and betrayal. He didn't float above suffering, he stepped right into it. Because love can't redeem what it refuses to touch. He had to become one of us to heal all of us. Every scar he took was a sermon in blood, saying, "This is what God looks like when he loves." The dwelling of glory, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The word dwelt literally means tabernacled, to pitch a tent, to make a home. This is John's way of saying, the same presence that once filled the tabernacle in the wilderness has now moved into human flesh. He is Emmanuel, God with us, no longer hidden behind curtains, no longer confined to temples, no longer distant or abstract. He walks among his people again, not in fire and smoke, but in kindness, eyes, and voice. The Word didn't just visit, he moved in permanently. The return of the Precnc for centuries. Israel had lived with the ache of absence. The glory that once filled Solomon's temple had departed. The prophets cried, Ichabod, the glory has left. But when Jesus was born, the glory returned, not to a building, but to a body. The fire of Sinai now burned behind human eyes. The same presence that once dwelled between golden cherubim now dwelt between ribs and lungs. God was no longer a rumor, a religion. He was a reality you could embrace. When John leaned on Jesus' chest at the Last Supper, he wasn't just resting, he was listening to the heartbeat of heaven. The God who speaks in the scion flesh is fragile. It bleeds, breaks, ages, dies. And that's exactly what God chose. Because only by entering our fragility could he redeem it. He didn't come as a spirit hovering above suffering. He came as a body that could be wounded, so that every wound could one day be healed. He didn't come to show us how to escape being human. He came to show us how to be fully human again. That's the secret of the incarnation. Divinity didn't cancel humanity. It fulfilled it when Jesus walked the earth. He was the prototype of restored creation, God and man in perfect harmony. He didn't lower divinity to fit humanity. He raised humanity to contain divinity. The silence of heaven by Rokian Think. About this, for 400 years before Christ, heaven had been silent. No prophets, no visions, no fresh revelation. Then, suddenly, a cry pierces the night in Bethlehem. A child is born, and all creation holds its breath. The silence breaks. The Word speaks again, not from a mountain, but from a manger. Every syllable of his life would be revelation. Every step, a sentence. Every miracle, a message. This is what God is like. The paradox of the INC, or innate EO1 God, became what he created. The infinite entered the finite. The maker became material. The author wrote himself into his own story. He who holds galaxies in his hands now lets those hands be nailed to wood. He who measures oceans in his palm now thirsts at a well. He who commands angels now walks dusty roads with fishermen. The Almighty limited, the eternal mortal, the invisible dash visible. All of it, so that humanity could finally touch truth and not die, but live. The presence still dwelling. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Notice, John doesn't say dwelt. He uses a continuous idea, dwelling, ongoing, alive. The incarnation didn't end at the ascension. The Word still dwells now, through us, Christ in you, the hope of glory. The same presence that once filled a tent in the desert now fills hearts in every nation. You are the new tabernacle. You are the mobile temple of divine fire. Where you walk, he walks. Where you speak, he speaks. The Word is still among us, not as a distant deity, but as indwelling divinity. The final word, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That's the center of everything. The mystery the prophets glimpsed, the angels longed to see. The cosmos was created to host. The infinite made himself interruptible. The holy wrapped himself in hunger. The eternal stepped into time to show us what eternity feels like. He didn't just visit, he stayed. He didn't just look like us, he loved like us and through us. And every time you let him speak, serve, heal, forgive through you, the Word continues, becoming flesh. So remember this thing. God doesn't need perfection to dwell, just permission. He's still looking for hearts to inhabit, bodies to inhabit, stories to rewrite, because the Word didn't just become flesh once. He keeps becoming flesh every time light does darkness through you. That's the miracle that never ends. He's still here. 17. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, full of grace and truth. They didn't imagine it. They didn't hallucinate it. They saw it. We have seen his glory. That's not a statement of faith. It's a statement of sight. John isn't talking about theology. He's talking about experience. He's saying, we touched the untouchable. We walked with the eternal. We looked into the eyes of God, and they looked back. This is not the glory that blinds. It's the glory that transforms. The glory they SAW. What did they see? Not golden thrones or cosmic fireworks. They saw glory hidden in humanity. They saw it when he touched lepers, when he wept at Lazarus' tomb, when he forgave his executioners. They saw the Almighty wrapped in humility. They saw infinite power expressed through infinite gentleness. Every miracle, every moment, every breath was heaven showing its true face. And when he hung on the cross, bleeding, broken, John realized this too is glory. Not the kind that shines, the kind that saves. Because true glory isn't about display, it's about essence. It's the unveiled heart of God, love that bleeds, grace that gives, truth that endures, the glory of the one and only Son, the glory of the one and only Son. In Greek, monogenes, the unique, one of a kind, never to be repeated. Jesus wasn't just another prophet or enlightened man, was the only one of his kind. Fully God, fully man, two natures, one person. He wasn't half of either. He was whole of both. He wasn't God pretending to be human. He was God choosing to be human. The only Son doesn't mean God had just one child. It means this Son is unlike any other. The eternal Word, begotten, not made, the visible image of the invisible God. He's the blueprint of creation, the mirror of the Father's mind, the bridge between what is seen and unseen. When John says, we have seen his glory, he's saying, we saw God in motion. We saw love embodied, full of grace adhered to two words that don't normally coexist. Grace, the open hand, is truth, the firm spine. One embraces, the other exposes. Most men choose one or the other. Jesus carried both perfectly. He could look at a sinner and say, neither do I condemn you, and in the same breath say, go and sin no more. That's grace and truth, forgiveness and transformation, dancing in perfect sync. Grace without truth is sentimentality. Truth without grace is cruelty. But in him, they kiss. That's why the world had never seen glory like this before. Every revelation before him was partial fire on mountains, smoke in temples, whispers in caves. But now, the full spectrum of divine character walked on 2 feet. When you looked at him, didn't just see what God could do, you saw who God is. The glory that tyrannous form is seeing. His glory wasn't just an event, it was an encounter that rewired everything. When Peter saw him transfigured on the mountain, his first reaction wasn't worship, it was confusion. Because glory breaks categories. It doesn't fit theology, he rewrites it. When Moses saw God's glory, his face shone for a while. When John saw Jesus' glory, his entire being changed forever. Because this glory doesn't fade, it transfers. Every person who truly beholds him starts to become like him. We all, with unveiled faces, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image. 2 Corinthians 3:18, you become what you behold. That's the secret of transformation. To see his glory isn't to be entertained, it's to be reborn. The glory of Sio and Turia Taiatio. In this glory, opposites coexist. Majesty and mercy, holiness and humility, eternal power, imperishable flesh. It's the paradox of perfection. The king who kneels, the judge who forgives, the God who bleeds. That's the beauty John can't stop describing, because once you've seen that kind of glory, nothing else impresses you again. Gold looks dull. Thrones look small. Only the Lamb, enthroned by his own sacrifice, commands your heart's attention. The echo of beholding, we have seen his glory. That's not just history, it's inheritance. To him, the same glory John saw, you are invited to behold. It's not locked in time, it's alive in presence. When you worship, when you forgive, when you love the unlovable, you're glimpsing that same radiance. Because his glory isn't about light, it's about love. The more you love like him, the more his light reflects through you. You don't chase glory, you host it. You don't perform for it, you carry it. Every act of grace, every moment of truth is the word still dwelling, the glory still shining. The glory we now be AR. This isn't the end of revelation, it's the beginning of reflection. He came to reveal what the Father looks like. Okay? You exist to reveal what he looks like. The glory didn't stay in Galilee, it multiplied. It moved into hearts and now walks through every continent, wearing a million different faces. His body is a church still radiant with grace and truth. When John said, "We have seen his glory," he wasn't closing a story, he was opening one, because the same light that once walked beside fishermen now walks inside you. The final word, we have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, full of grace and truth. That's the crescendo of John's symphony, the word that was with God. It's the word that was God, the word that became flesh, and now it's the word revealed as glory. This is where eternity meets experience, where theology becomes testimony. John isn't just saying, he came. He's saying, I saw him, and I was never the same. So think, if the world around you ever feels dim, don't chase light, look at him. Because the same glory that filled the upper room now fills your spirit. And when the world looks at you and wonders, what is this light? You can smile and say, we have seen his glory. And in that moment, heaven will echo back, yes, and my glory now lives in you. In the beginning, there was only silence, and then a word, not a sound, not a syllable, a person, living, breathing, creating. That word spoke galaxies into being, spun stars like sparks from his fingertips, and whispered light into existence. But that same word, he wasn't content to stay distant. He wanted to be known. So he wrote himself into his own story. He became what he created. He walked among his words. He entered the pages of his own poetry, the infinite warskin. The author became the character. The creator became the created. So creation could remember its creator again. And the world, blind, busy, brilliant, did not know him. But some did. The broken, the hungry, the ones who looked twice. They saw it, the glory, not in thunder, but in tenderness, not in fire, but in forgiveness, the face of God glowing through a human smile. That was the moment. Heaven stopped being a theory and started walking beside us. He came to his own, and they did not receive him, but to those who did, he gave the right to become children of God, born not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, full of grace, full of truth.